Knocked away. What a block!
And above all, a team that brings the entire Bay Area together.
Curry, one step in front of the logo. A right-hand slam on a little elevation. Sensation.
This is Warriors Live on 95.7. The Game.
Yes, it is. Welcome inside of Chase Center. Mark Randy with you ahead of Warriors versus Kings. Tip-off is about an hour away right here on 95.7 The Game. I've got you covered for the next 30 minutes. Then Tim Roy, Tom Tolbert, and company will take you up until tip-off and throughout the entire game. This is Warriors Live presented by Xfinity. Stream sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Before we get to anything Warriors-Kings specifically, we do have to check in on a major injury for the Golden State Warriors, and this is how we begin with today's injury report. Brought to you by Boxer & Gerson, Northern California's premier workers' compensation law firm, helping injured workers get their lives back for over 40 years. For more information, visit boxerlaw.com. We begin by going back to last night. Warriors knock off the Grizzlies in that one for the Warriors. They cruised in the second half. And they did get a little bit of bad news, though, when Jonathan Kuminga went down late in the first half, rolled his ankle, was quickly ruled out. Steve Kerr had this to say post-game last night on Jonathan Kuminga's ankle.
We'll have more tomorrow. It's not going to be a day-to-day thing. It was a significant sprain, so we'll just have a report tomorrow once we get a better feel for it.
So that was Steve Kerr last night. He mentioned that MRI coming, and he said tomorrow. That means today. The result of the MRI is out. Jonathan Kuminga, this is directly from the Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga, who exited last night's game with 2:27 remaining in the second quarter due to a sprained right ankle, underwent an MRI earlier today. The MRI confirmed that Kuminga suffered a significant lateral ankle sprain. He will be reevaluated in 3 weeks. So we're looking at least a 3-week absence for Jonathan Kuminga, but I would not be surprised if it was more than that, because reevaluation in 3 weeks, that does not mean he's going to be cleared to play in 3 weeks. It means the next time they're going to update his status is in 3 weeks. So this absence might ultimately end up being a month, if not longer, for Jonathan Kuminga. But the next update that we are expecting on Kuminga is in 3 weeks. It means he's for sure out tonight, of course, with that sprained right ankle. Steve Kerr did speak pregame after that update came out, and he said, quote, "It's brutal. He's our most athletic scorer and finisher. He's been playing so well, so it's a tough one. We do feel good about our depth and our ability to withstand his loss." He mentioned Kyle Anderson and Moses Moody as specific players that are expected to get more of an opportunity. We saw a little bit of that in the second half last night. Steve Kerr also added that Andrew Wiggins will now take on a bigger scoring burden, just like he did in the second half last night when he scored 22 of his 24 in the second half. 18 of those 22 in the second half came in the third quarter alone. So again, Jonathan Kuminga out tonight with that sprained right ankle that he suffered in the first half last night. And he's out for at least the next 3 weeks, which means the Warriors have a predicament on their hands. He's been scoring nearly 25 points per game for a decent stretch. How do the Warriors make up for that loss? We're going to find out a little bit how they try to do that tonight. Again, probably more Kyle Anderson, probably more Moses Moody. I wouldn't expect it to change the starting lineup because Kuminga has been the Warriors' sixth man of late, and it's been working really well. But Steve Kerr is going to have to try to find a new rotation to settle into because the Warriors had really settled into a nice 9-man rotation lately. But this injury to Kuminga, who, assuming that games have been close, has been playing upwards of 30 minutes every single night. So where do the Warriors turn from here? We're going to get the beginnings of that answer tonight as the Warriors get set to take on the Sacramento Kings. Okay, elsewhere on the injury report, which again is brought to you by Boxer & Gerson, Stephen Curry is off the injury report after missing last night's game to manage his bilateral knee tendonitis. Interestingly enough, the Warriors 5-2 now in 7 games without Steph Curry this year, but Steph is off the injury report and he will play tonight against the Kings. Meanwhile, Gary Payton II remains out with a left calf strain. He has not played the last 5 games. This will be his 6th game missed in a row. The Warriors updated his status yesterday, said he's cleared to begin individual on-court workouts and will be reevaluated again this coming week. Also, Brandon Podziemski remains out, listed officially today as out with right abdominal injury management. So interesting change there. He's out with injury management, not with the injury itself. That is an indicator that he is, I would guess, getting close to returning. And Steve Kerr kind of confirmed that pregame as well. Here's what Steve Kerr said pregame, quote, hoping that Podziemski would be able to come back tonight. We had circled this game as a potential return date. Steve Kerr did add that Podziemski didn't have a setback. He's just not quite ready yet, but I would expect a Podziemski return is relatively soon, maybe at some point this week, maybe even Tuesday as the Warriors close out this 6-game homestand when Miami comes to town. Again, that's coming up on Tuesday. That's the Warriors injury report. No Kuminga, out for 3 weeks at least when he'll be reevaluated next. GP2 out, Podziemski out. Steph Curry, though, off the injury report and good to go. Meanwhile, for the Kings, De'Aaron Fox is the big one. In fact, he's really the only one. He is out with a right glute contusion. He will not play. Essentially, every other Kings rotation player is available tonight, but no De'Aaron Fox. He's out with a right glute contusion, and that is the injury report for the Warriors and the Kings ahead of this one on Warriors Live, which, as always, the injury report brought to you by Boxer and Gerson. Okay, I mentioned the Warriors 5-2 without Steph Curry so far this year. A big part of that has been Jonathan Kuminga. Now the Warriors, if Steph Curry has to miss any time, which I would imagine he's going to miss at least one game on the upcoming road trip because the Warriors do have a back-to-back coming up on this trip. How are they going to survive the non-Steph minutes and the non-Steph games now that they don't have Jonathan Kuminga either? The Warriors are 5-2 without Steph Curry so far this season. Here's Steve Kerr post-game last night on how the Warriors have been able to survive without Steph Curry in the rotation for those 7 games. Here's Coach Kerr last night.
I got to be careful about answering this because I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry. I know how you guys operate. So, no, hugely important. I mean, I think I said at the beginning of the year, I felt really good about our ability this year to win games without Steph, to win games without Draymond. I think we've been able to do both just based on the depth of our roster. We have a lot of guys who are dying to play and ready to play when other people are out. Yeah, it's fantastic to be able to win a game, against a great team without Steph, and then get him the rest he needs for tomorrow's game, and be able to come back with him fresh and giving his knees a little rest. So it's a big night for us, and I think Dennis has a lot to do with our ability to keep playing, through Steph's absences, handling the ball, guarding the ball, getting us organized.
Yeah, that was Steve Kerr last night as the Warriors knocked off the Grizzlies without Stephen Curry. 121-113 was the win in that one for the Warriors. They're going to get Steph Curry back, but it is interesting. You're 5-2 without Steph. You're 18-16 overall this year, which means you are, oddly enough, a game under 500 with Stephen Curry, but you're 5-2 without Stephen Curry. Don't read into it all that much. It's just a quirk of this season. The Warriors, of course, are a much better basketball team with Stephen Curry out there, and they will have him out there tonight as the Warriors 18-16 get set to do battle with the Kings at 16-19. The Kings, that record 16-19, best good enough for 11th in the Western Conference right now. They are percentage points ahead of Phoenix for that 11th spot. They've been hovering around 500 essentially all season, a few games over at a time, a few games under at a time, including right now, although their worst was a few games ago when they were 6 games under, but they are on a 3-game winning streak. They've kind of been streaky of late. They were 13-13, then lost 6 in a row to be 13-19. They fired Coach Mike Brown. in the middle of that losing streak after they had lost their 5th of 6 consecutive games. Since firing Mike Brown, they lost that 6th consecutive game. Then they've won 3 in a row. So 3-1 without Mike Brown. Wins against Dallas, against Philadelphia, and against Memphis. But in those games, Dallas was without Luka Doncic, Philadelphia was without Joel Embiid, and Memphis was without Ja Morant. There's a lot of stars around the NBA that are not playing basketball right now, including De'Aaron Fox tonight for the Kings against these Warriors, including as the Kings beat both Philly and Memphis. The Warriors beat those teams as well, although Embiid played for Philly against the Warriors. Ja Morant did not play for Memphis against the Warriors. He also did not play against the Kings. So the Kings have 3 wins, but again, those 3 teams down their best player, but they are playing a little bit of better basketball of late to get back to 16 and 19. Really quick, one other thing from Steve Kerr pregame earlier today, talking about Mike Brown, who was fired after the Kings' 5th consecutive loss the day after Christmas, if memory serves, when De'Aaron Fox fouled a 3-point shooter in the corner in the final seconds, and the Kings ultimately lose that basketball game. The organization seemingly siding with their star player over their coach. Not that you had to choose one or the other. You probably could have kept it going with those two. But Coach Kerr said essentially, quote, "I'm still in shock that the Kings fired Mike Brown." I think most people around the NBA feel that way as well. Meanwhile, the Warriors 18 and 16, they're 8th in the Western Conference right now, a half game ahead of San Antonio, 1 game ahead of Minnesota, a game and a half behind the Clippers for the 7th spot. The Warriors also have been a streaky team, much like the Kings. The Warriors began 12-3, then they went 3-12 to get back to 500. Since then, though, they are 3-1 in their last 4, and that is this homestand. 3-1 in the first 4 games of this homestand. They've got 2 more games in this 6-game homestand before they go back out on the road. I told you countless times, I feel like 4-2 should be the goal, but with 3 wins in your first 4, you now have an opportunity to get greedy. You got Sacramento tonight. They're down De'Aaron Fox. You've got Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat, except, oh wait, Jimmy Butler's suspended. It's just the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. Not that that's an easy win, not that either of these are easy wins, but you're taking on a couple of teams who will not be at their best because they're not playing some of their best players. The Warriors have a chance to make this a 5-1 homestand. If they do that, they would go out on the road at 20-16. And considering how bad a lot of this has looked lately for the Warriors, 20-16 heading out on the road against Detroit, Indiana, Toronto, and Minnesota, you'd feel pretty good about yourselves. But at the very least, the Warriors need to split these next 2. You got you got Sacramento tonight, and then you got Miami coming up on Tuesday. Okay, let's keep it going here on Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you. Warriors Live, as always, is presented by Xfinity. At home or on the go, you'll get the fastest internet to all of your devices. Let's get to our Take It to the Bank prediction. It's time for our Take It to the Bank prediction, which is brought to you by Fremont Bank, full-service banking with no compromises. I will go Buddy Hield over 9.5 points tonight. He had himself his best game in quite a while last night, scoring 14 points. He was 5 of 9 from the field, 4 of 7 from downtown. That had to feel really good for Buddy Hield after the slump that he's been in. Coming off those good feelings specifically for Buddy, plus now the Warriors without Jonathan Kuminga, I think the Warriors are going to need more scoring from a few different players, and Buddy Hield is one of the more logical and obvious spots to get some more points from, so I'll go over 9.5 points for Buddy Hield tonight. This is not the best defensive team for the Sacramento Kings either. This is also a Buddy Hield revenge game, if you believe in those. Buddy Hield, of course, spent some time in Sacramento earlier in his career. I'm sure he would like to have himself a nice performance. One, because he hasn't been playing at his best, anywhere near his best of late. But I think games against teams that you previously were on tend to mean just a little bit more for professional athletes. So Buddy Hield, lock it in. My Take It to the Bank prediction, brought to you by Fremont Bank, full service banking, no compromises. Buddy Hield over 9.5 points tonight for the Warriors against the Kings. Let's keep it rolling here on Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you as we get set for Dubs and Kings. Tip-off coming your way at about 5:30 here on 95.7 The Game. I've got you for the next 10 or so minutes. Then Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert will get you set for tip-off high above the court here at Chase Center. Andrew Wiggins was really important last night. He scored 24 points, had 18 of his 24 in the third quarter alone. He kind of got jump-started when Desmond Bane of Memphis ran through him late in the first half, got an and one. Wiggins did not take too kindly to that, and Wiggins had himself a pretty good second half, specifically the third quarter. 18 points in the third quarter, one off his single quarter career high 4 points. He scored 19 points as a member of the T-Wolves back in 2017. But Andrew Wiggins kind of turned this game around at halftime. It coincided with Kuminga's injury, so the Warriors knew they needed to get more from Wiggins, and it also coincided with Desmond Bane running through him, and Wiggins did not take too kindly to that. Andrew Wiggins spoke on NBC Sports Bay Area postgame last night about the message from Steve Kerr at halftime that helped turn his 2-point first half into a 22-point second half. Here's Andrew Wiggins last night on the message from Steve Kerr at halftime.
Stay aggressive. Stay aggressive. I feel like I took a good bump right at the end of that second quarter. I feel like that got me going. Come out there and, be aggressive. Don't let them be aggressive and look for my shot.
Yeah, he looked for a shot, and that he did. He scored 22 in the second half, 18 in the third quarter alone. Wiggins continued on the postgame show on NBC Sports Bay Area on the importance of stepping up with Stephen Curry out. Here's more Andrew Wiggins last night.
It's important. It's important. They came in and, they did what they were supposed to do. Lindy came in, hit some big shots. Buddy played great. Kyle came in, gave us, great energy, great playmaking, scoring. He did it all. So it was a team effort.
It really was a team effort. Andrew Wiggins is right about that. Now you get Steph Curry back tonight, and he's not dealing with any major injury, just the knee tendonitis. And the Warriors have said that for the time being, as that knee tendonitis is still presently an issue, they're going to hold him out of back-to-backs, which means I would not expect him to play in every game of the upcoming road trip. The Warriors have a back-to-back Thursday and Friday of this coming week in Detroit and in Indiana. Those are the first two games of their upcoming 4-game road trip, which begins after Tuesday's home game against the Heat. So the Warriors are going to have moments where you get performances like that without Stephen Curry. You need help from Wiggins. You need help from Buddy Hield. You need help from Dennis Schroeder. You need help from Trayce Jackson-Davis. You need help from Lindy Waters, from Moses Moody, from Kyle Anderson. That's what happened last night. Tonight is a little bit of a different challenge because you get Steph back, but now you're down Jonathan Kuminga. And the Warriors haven't played without Jonathan Kuminga all that often this year. In fact, it's only happened twice, and the Warriors are 0-2 in those two games. And you could argue those two losses that they lost without Kuminga were two of their worst losses of the season. It was in San Antonio when they had a big lead late in the third quarter. They lose that game because they could not buy a bucket in the fourth quarter. And a very similar story for the Warriors against the Nets the very next game at home. They had built a big lead in the second half, and then their offense went MIA. They could not get a bucket in the fourth quarter, and they lose that game as well. Those are the only two games the Warriors have played without Kuminga this year. And on one end, you can say, well, at least they were good enough to build those big leads, and you're right. But then when the going got tough and they could not buy a bucket down the stretch in clutch time, in games that were, within 5 points in the final 5 minutes of regulation, where do you go to get those easier buckets now? Because that has been Kuminga's biggest asset to this team. When your jump shots aren't falling and teams are doubling or tripling Steph, where are you going to go to? That's what the Warriors have to figure out now because Kuminga is off the table. If you missed it, the Warriors announced that he had a pretty significant lateral sprain of his right ankle. Kuminga seen leaving Chase Center last night on crutches, and he's out for at least the next 3 weeks. The Warriors saying he will be reevaluated in 3 weeks' time. I would not expect him to return at the second that he gets reevaluated either. So we might be looking at an absence closer to a month as opposed to 3 weeks. But we will see. As of right now, at least 3 weeks off for Jonathan Kuminga. So Andrew Wiggins is going to have to take on a little bit more of the pressure to score the basketball, and that is what Steve Kerr said pregame today, saying he's got to take on more of a scoring burden as he did in the second half last night. Only 2 points in the first half for Wiggins against Memphis, 18 in the third, and 22 in the second half entirely. All right, let's keep it rolling on Warriors Live. Mark Randy with you as we get set for Kings and Warriors. The Kings, winners of 3 games in a row. They're 3-1 since firing head coach Mike Brown. They're 16-19 on the season, 11th place in the Western Conference, so out of the postseason picture as currently constructed. But the West is very, very bunched up. If you look at the Western Conference standings right now, the Rockets are in second in the West, 7 games behind Oklahoma City. In fact, Oklahoma City has already won today, so now the Rockets are 7.5 games behind Oklahoma City. But Houston is second at 22-12. And then you go all the way down to the 10th place team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are a game and a half ahead of Sacramento. 2 through 10 in the Western Conference are separated by only 5 games. That's how jumbled up the Western Conference is right now. You got a clear top dog in OKC. Everybody else, you've got smaller tiers within there, but 2 through 10, you could see a lot of movement as the season continues. So with that in mind, let's get to our out-of-town NBA game of the night, which is sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. There are only 6 games around the association tonight, including Lakers and Rockets from Houston. This game is underway right now, mid-second quarter, and the Rockets hold a 48-32 lead over the Lakers, so a 16-point advantage for the Rockets. These two teams are 2 teams that are in that bunch in the West that I'm talking about right now. The Rockets are 22-12, second in the West, actually aided by the Warriors beating the Grizzlies last night. The Lakers, they've really stabilized of late at 20-14. They're tied with the Nuggets for 4th place in the Western Conference. But again, seeds 2 through 10 only separated by 5 games right now in the West. Anyway, Lakers-Rockets tipped off a little bit ago, 16-point lead for the Rockets in the first half. So, of course, it's too late for you to get down to Houston for this game tonight. But SFO can help you get down to Houston whenever you want, or anywhere else an NBA game is going on. Whenever you need, SFO can help you do that. And maybe you want to plan a trip down there when the Warriors are in town. The Warriors have already been in Houston twice this year. Remember the OT win in November when they blew that 30-point lead and then pulled it out in overtime, and then the 1-point loss in December that ended the Warriors' in-season tournament or the NBA Cup run. So these matchups are almost always good games. So if you're looking for a road game to go to, Warriors in Houston tends to be good basketball games. And the Warriors are in Houston for the last time this regular season on February 13th, and SFO, again, can help you get there for that matchup, no problem at all. And that is our out-of-town NBA game of the night, sponsored by the San Francisco International Airport. Wherever your team goes, you can get there from SFO. All right, about a minute left with you here on Warriors Live on 95.7 The Game as we get set for Dubs and Kings. Warriors looking to win again and improve to 4-1 on this 6-game homestand. They've won 3 of their last 4. They've won a couple of games in a row. This would be another nice win for the Warriors to get. No De'Aaron Fox. Steph Curry is back. But the big news of the day, Jonathan Kuminga out for at least 3 weeks. A significant lateral right ankle sprain. He will be reevaluated in 3 weeks' time. All right, that'll do it for Warriors Live here on 95.7 The Game. As always, Warriors Live presented by Xfinity. At home or on the go, you'll get the fastest internet to all of your devices. I'll be back with you for post-game Warriors wrap-up once this game ends. Until then, I'll hand it over to Tim Roy and Tom Tolbert. They're topside at Chase Center, getting ready to give you all the action. Warriors and Kings just moments away. Warriors basketball here on 95.7 The Game. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you post-game right here on 95.7 The Game.
It's that time of year again, Bay Area sports fans. Whether you're flying out to catch an away game or planning your holiday